Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Jerrel from Sungran, developer of the Silver Falls games. So, in this video, I want to share a little bit about my path on how I got to making games for a living. So, I generally keep my personal life and my work life separate, but it's always good to check in and to just level with people, and these days people really want to know who's making the games that they're enjoying. So, ever since I was a kid, for as long as I can remember, I was always making either board games or card games, and I would bring them to school, and I would play the games with my friends, and we would have a lot of fun. At some point in the late 90s, generally I used to just hand draw absolutely everything. Maybe I'd photocopy something and make card games and write stories that I would bring to school. But at some point, this probably would have been in the late 90s, or in the late 90s, we got a computer, and I figured out what emulation was, and I figured out that in certain emulators you can disable tiles on the graphics so you can separate the sprites. So I was able to screenshot sprites from games that I enjoyed, and then I would print them out and I would put them onto little board games, little card games. I would take those to school, and my friends and I would play games that I made using the sprites. When I discovered RPG Maker 98, that was translated by Don Miguel, that basically changed the way that I created things creatively, because I stopped making hand-drawn paper board games and card games. I realized I could make a game on the computer, and so that was really my first taste of creating a game, was RPG Maker 98. And soon I would find other software scattered all over the internet when the internet was the Wild West, and it was very, very fun. What a fun era. I eventually found RPG Maker 2000, then Game Maker, and so there's I don't know if I've made a bunch of stuff and just distributed them as a kid, you know, and they're probably floating around somewhere on the internet. Maybe I've got a CDR somewhere. I certainly don't have any like external hard drives. Well, actually, maybe I have backed up some of my old stuff, but there's a lot of old games that I created using RPG Maker and Game Maker that'll be lost to time. They're floating around somewhere. But eventually I realized that this was something that I absolutely wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was probably around 5 or 6 years old when I knew for a fact that I had to make video games for a living. I knew that most kids grew up wanting to be like an astronaut or a crazy scientist or, you know, a firefighter, something, you know, that was more common and standard. But I can distinctly, being so young that I didn't know what anything was, but I specifically remember playing Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo, and it was somewhere a mixture between Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and Breath of Fire, playing that with my siblings. And I was very young, and I absolutely knew. I mean, one of my first memories that I can actually recall is watching my older brother play Breath of Fire, and I remember thinking, I have to make games like this. When I grow up, I have to make games for people. I need to make games. And so I don't think there was ever a point in my life where I wasn't taking steps toward achieving that. My whole life has been leading up to this point. It was probably 2017 when I just quit my day job. I quit taking contracts. I no longer contracted out to other companies to do work for them. So in general, I had worked in other industries as technology consultant, as an event organizer, as public relations, social media managers, and things like that. And there was a point in my life where there was some family tragedy, and things became a little disorganized for me. And there was that moment in my life where I didn't have time, where I didn't have it in me to do industry work at that point. I needed some time to process. So I took a retail job just to step back, you know, and just take time to process, as you do in those sorts of situations. And at probably 7 or 8 months of that, and I said, okay, I've had enough of that now. And I really want to make this happen. And at that point, I had already done a couple mobile games, and I had done Animele, which people really enjoyed. And I was still sort of struggling processing some family tragedy, some death. And I didn't really have any other way to process it, you know. And I was sort of venting through games that I didn't publish. I was just creating concepts and working on stuff until I got my hands on a 3DS development kit, and then I knew, okay, I love this console. I always wanted there to be survival horror games, just more survival horror. That's one of my favorite genres. I grew up playing Resident Evil and Silent Hill with my siblings, and I wanted more experiences like that. And when the 3DS launched, I remember thinking, oh, all I have to do is wait. The developers out there will surely bring just tons of survival horror games to this. This will be great. And it turned out we didn't get that many. We only got a handful of horror games and survival horror games on the 3DS. And it got to a point where I thought, okay, people are moving on, and developers are moving on. It doesn't seem like they're going to bring the game that I really want. And I just knew that there were people all over the world that felt the same way I did, where they also wanted more survival horror games. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my first commercial game, and I'm going to make it the exact kind of game that I love, that I grew up with my family, with my cousins. We really enjoy these games, and I said, I'm going to make a game like that type of excitement, that, you know, that isn't just exciting to experience with other people, but to sort of sit alone at night, to think about it, and to spend time enjoying it at your own pace, and experiencing the horror in a lonely sort of way, in a way that I hadn't really experienced from other horror games. I understood what I liked about survival horror games, and I knew that I wanted to bring something different, because there was no point in repeating what had already been done in the past. I wanted to create a game series that gave people a new way to experience these kinds of stories. And in a way, I think that the death that I was processing at the time influenced my structuring of Silver Falls as a series, because I wanted a way for players to not have to say goodbye. As sad as that sounds, and as painful as that sounds, the Code Linker was a way for me to give people a chance to not have to say goodbye. Because that's one of the scariest parts about finishing a game, and often I'll get to the end of a game and not finish it, because I just don't like having to say goodbye to these characters that I enjoy and the story that I like. And after I had experienced, you know, some death at some point that I had to process, it became a bigger sort of a roadblock for me. And I thought, what if with something like Code Linker, you can keep spending time with these characters that you like, because we become attached. These characters become a part of our lives, and it's frustrating having to say goodbye to these fictional characters when we already have to say goodbye to people in our real lives, and we don't have a say in the matter in real life. And so I thought, by creating this game series, I can create a place where people can go, they can spend as much time as they want there, and they can spend time with these characters and these people. And because the games in Silver Falls take place in different decades, you get to check in with these people, and it feels like, well, I wanted this whole series to feel like you're living with these people, like you're going up to this mountain town, you're sharing in these experiences, and you are catching up with an old friend. By using the Code Linker, you get to see what someone is like in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, and then in current day. And I probably would not have come up with a system like that if I had not been looking for a way to process my grief at that point in my life. And so I was able to create a system that I think is very exciting. It's something that I would personally enjoy as a player, and it gives me the opportunity to constantly push myself to do the best that I can with these games, and to constantly improve and think of new and exciting ways to to surprise people and to reward people and to thank them for enjoying my games. So it was such a difficult path to get to where I am now, because when my first Silver Falls title launched, which was my first commercial title, I was using a version of the Unity game engine, which had so many issues and so many problems that were insurmountable, that 85% of my development time was not spent creating the game. It was spent fighting the engine and tricking the engine into working, into doing anything. The vast majority of the engine was broken, and so I was constantly just looking for ways to just make the game work at all. I was able to build a working relationship with Nintendo over that period, and when my first title launched, when 3 Down Stars launched, unfortunately, in terms of our online culture, I think 2019, 2020, I think we had reached a new peak of mean-spiritedness online, and when it came to just, oh, here's this game that I don't like, I'll just brutalize it, I'll just be really, I'll eviscerate this game for my article that I'm writing, for the video that I'm making for this review, because that sort of meanness, that negativity, people are attracted to that. They sort of celebrate that on the internet. And so my first title was just brutalized, and I didn't really make any revenue off that title, which was brutal, because I spent like 2.5-3 years creating that title, only to realize, oh no, I've quit my day job, I've used up all of my savings to try to make my game development company work, and because of 2 or 3 extremely mean-spirited reviews, I wasn't able to sell copies of my game. And at that point, I thought, well, that's it. I'm going to have to find something else to do. I can't make money off my games now because of these reviews. And it's a handful. I can, if you ask me to name them, I can name them. But there's about 4 or 5 people that were enjoying my games that, and they're from all around the world, Europe, South America, North America, people just a couple of people that were playing 3 Down Stars, and they were saying, hey man, I really like this game, here's a couple of bugs that I found, can you fix them? And so I thought, look, some people have bought my game, they're enjoying it, despite all these brutal reviews, and I said, okay, I'll fix the game for you guys, I'll keep adding you content, and I just kept at it. And it was like that for a good 1.5 years, where people just kept encouraging me and kept cheering me on, and they were saying, man, please don't give up. It got to a point where I'd done Undertakers and I'd done episode Prelude, and I just wasn't really making money with the series. It was really tough, and it was just for a handful of people at that point where I thought, look, it felt like I was making games for my school friends, back when I was a kid. I was making games for just a handful of my friends, and I thought, well, this is what it's like then. It felt like I was making Silver Falls for a handful of friends that I had all around the world. And so I said, okay, you guys, because you're enjoying it, and I really appreciate that you're enjoying my game, and you understand that it's flawed, that I have a tough time developing these games, given the resources available. So I said, I'll keep improving it. So I kept improving it, and I kept launching more games, and somehow we got to the point where I was able to build that relationship with Nintendo, and they helped me launch the very final games for the 3DS and the Wii U. And it was exciting because there were people all around the world. I wanted to bring positivity to the end of support for 3DS and Wii U. Like everyone else, I was bummed out about it. It's not a great feeling to see something that you are passionate about, something that you love, to see, to have to say goodbye. And I think that's a theme that's present all throughout 3 Down Stars, not necessarily through the whole series, but particularly through 3 Down Stars, was saying goodbye, is what some of the characters are dealing with. And I think many people felt that kind of hurt when they saw that they had to say goodbye to the 3DS and Wii U, and I thought, I just want to give people something positive to deal with this situation. and I told Nintendo what my position was. And that I did not think that Nintendo would respond to me at all, because I'd approached them from a pretty emotional place, and I said, look, people around the world are upset. I want to bring positivity to the situation. And I thought, look, I'm just a solo developer. They have thousands upon thousands of developers just like me who are probably reaching out to them all day long. But they got back to me and they said, they would give me the support that I needed to get these final games out. And so I got that out, and it's just been the greatest thing in the world to see that I've reached people, maybe not, tons and tons of people, but enough people have found my games and they're just enjoying them. And people are just telling me, man, I just can't wait for the next Silver Falls. They enjoy the characters, they enjoy the design sensibilities. I know my games are weird, because I'm kind of weird. I'm a pretty weird guy, I think, but I think that's why people enjoy my games, is that there's something quirky and interesting about the games. And they're fun. I always approach my games, my priority is this fun? And I always think back to when I was a kid making little card games and board games for my friends at school. I just wanted to give people something fun. And these days, as I'm a little bit older now and I've processed a bit more about the world, I've not changed on that position, but my position on that has expanded and grown. And so not only do I want to give people something fun, but I want to give people something that they can believe in. And I need to make sure that no matter what I do, I don't betray the trust that people have given to me. People trust that I will treat them with respect, and I will do my absolute best to give them games that are fun, and that I'll be giving them something that they can believe in. And I hope that I can keep doing that. I hope I never lose sight of that. And in some way, despite the fact that I'm making games for people all around the world now, it still kind of feels like it just feels like I'm still making games for friends at school. So, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming to have a chat. That's me. I look forward to getting my next games out to you guys. Guardians and Metal Exterminators S will be launching on the Nintendo Switch on January 25th, and I have new IPs coming after that, so please keep an eye out for that, as I'll be announcing those. And I'll be getting games onto other platforms as well, especially the Atari VCS, which is just such a cool platform. I'm really passionate about that. I think it's really great. I want to get some games out there because I know there are people out there like me who want to see more games on it. And so that's what I want to do. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming to have a chat. I hope you enjoyed the fire. It's nice and warm. Take care of yourselves, everyone. And hey, we'll see you in Silver Falls.